Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, we good. We good over here. We good over here. Yeah, we good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about to. I got my bag with me. Yeah, I thought about it, but it didn't make no difference. Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm good. Peace, peace. Hope everybody having a good day. I know what time is it. I don't have long. What is it? Okay, I got an hour because I know we're getting ready to have our Friday book club on our Temple and School YouTube page and Facebook at Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. I know it's starting at 9. What is it? Eastern Standard Time. But I hope everybody having a good day. Had a good day of study. I had a good day. Met with a lot of students and different light seekers, and it's always a pleasure to be able to do that as I do my travels and, you know, back and forth, especially in my home city of Flint, where I know a plethora of people. Uh, and like I said, the thing about the true understanding of more science, it's not here to argue or overthrow any government. It's about perfecting yourself. That's the science of more science. But it's not disrespecting anyone. It's not saying this is better than that. It's almost like when you have a true understanding of everything, you have a level or a degree of peace. So when you always hear me saying peace, 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 the understanding that you should have should be a level of understanding and a level of peace. And so I'm always going to say peace. But I'm always gonna highlight my work every so often because I mean I should, and what person don't want to highlight the work that they've put in, you know, and gathered and compiled and made the science a little bit easier for a lot of those that may misunderstand to have a clear understanding. You know, the thing that I try to tell every young man, every young woman, and every older young man and woman, if we would just take the time to read and study the right thing, I'm telling you, we will be far, 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 far. I guarantee it. Especially when it comes to nationality and spirituality. We should have an understanding what regeneration is, resurrection is. We should have a clear understanding, or I like to say, we should have a common denominator as a people, you know. But like I said, as I've been home for a few weeks, I was able to meet with a different alumni. I graduated from a college called Clear University, tough university in Howell, Michigan. The Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, you know, was located out there. But uh, beautiful business university taught me a lot how to use my mind, how to move emotion, you know, just how to conduct business, you know, when everything should be done the right way. And if the right way have a template, you should fall in that template. You should fall in that template discipline per se. Just like I give an analogy, if success was a template, you can fall in that template of success. But success is not measured on the same playing field. So anyway, back to the wisdom and to the understanding. Since I've been home in my city, like I said, in Flint, Michigan, it definitely been an honor. You know, a lot of brothers that's Moors or Muslims, I don't see them. I deal with a lot of different brothers and sisters, but I tell my brothers and sisters that I know the only way we're gonna come together is we gotta see each other and touch each other. We gotta be. This is about economics as well, because a lot of misnomer black people can out Muhammad, can out Jesus, Yahshua, whatever you call it. But what about the common denominator on things that we should understand? Economics, who we are, nationality, and spirituality. You know, so when a lot of people be asking me about more science and what more science consists of, and how can you have any information on more science? What we did at the BBT is gather and compile and divinely prepared, a little compilation on what more science is, and just some discipline to challenge you to research more, you know, and to get the right science, you know, clean your, get some understanding, understand that the divine comes first. It's almost like getting the flush and fill and rebooting your hard drive. You have to be ready to first clean yourself up. Because if you're going to anything, with an unclean heart, it's never going to work. You know, it's never going to work. Because I tell people, when you're dealing with the Moorish Quran or even any holy book, the Bible, anything that's, if you have an eye, which all holy men, all adapts, all magi's have an eye, because all holy books correspond to the same thing. If you understand language, if you understand linguistics, you have to be able to jump into whatever you might say is not, how can I say, truth, and find the truth inside of it. The analogy, the parable, all that. You know what I'm saying? Understanding context, metaphors, all that. So we've written a manual called the Interpretation of the Divine Creed of Moorish Islam. and it's a compilation of some science. It's talks about our prophet Noble Drew Ali, which I always give credit to our American prophet. You can find so much history on Noble Drew Ali. You know, it's so many Europeans, Albions, whatever you want to call it, Trelodite, whatever vernacular language you want to put on a person. But it was so many people that was not melanated that wrote about the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Peter Lambert Wilson, uh, uh, Peter Moon, Hakeem Bey, and a lot of those were their pen names, their pseudonyms. Because if you wrote or went against the church per se, you know, but all this science come from melanated individuals. Adam Blavatsky, Alex Crowley, Pascal Beverly Randolph, all that, if I show you, it comes from more science. And when you do the research from the researchers, which it's a lot of us in this world, I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but when you do the research, you can start researching it from a scholastic perspective. And those that may be, how can I say it, using this more science to misconstrue people to try to say like maybe they have some special law or you know, whatever jurisdiction that come in, saying that they're sovereign citizens. And I always said that was that Roger Elvick and the Paradigm Group, which was another group of, no disrespect again, European Albions that was doing a such thing. I call it militia. You know, I call it that overthrowing the government thing, and that's not more science. I speak dearly to that, you know, because that's a lot that's going on the internet. I would never get into an argument or a debate with anyone on the internet about that. I would never get on the internet and argue with no one about that, but I will speak on that, and I hope people would just be able to fill in the blanks. Because if I talk in generalities, everything that's going on, you should be able to put an eye to what I'm saying if we're studious, you know, in this discipline. You don't have to say names. You can put it in all jurisdiction. When I said research Roger Elvick and research the Paradigm Group, you research those things and fact check what I'm saying, and you will see where those things come from. Just take a little tittle of your time, and everything that I will be demonstrating and showing you to show you clearly that that's not more science. And just because a person is wearing a fez, that don't mean nothing. The fez is older than me and you. The fez has always been a holy chiefdom. That's why Masons wear it in clandestine and secrecy. I mean, that's a fact, you know. And we can break the fez down in a whole different disciplines, esoterically and exoterically. You know, we can break it down to freedom. We can break it down to the Liberty Bell. But everyone knows that what that fez represents. And then, of course, we know when this what misnomer poor black, not poor, but poor, righteous black or whatever, those debating those lower spirits. Well, listen, the fez, which was used as part of an army uniform in certain places, Leopold wore the fez. He made those Africans wear the fez, and Hitler regiment wore the fez. Actually, one of Hitler regiments, they were Islam. They studied the Quran. You know, Nisar. I don't, and this is what he says: are all black Moors? Question: what makes a black person a Moor? Well, I wouldn't say all people know nothing. I don't go around and telling all people that they're anything, because I tell people to study their family crest. And I tell everyone you have a right of a nationality and a right to change it. And the claim a child replaces the birth certificate. I just deal with things when I say to where misnomered black people, which is a misnomer, because black was never used to describe ethnicity in the first century. But those things have to be agreed upon. Just like misnomered black people say they're black. And then some don't like the word black because, more because a lot haven't, studied from an unbiased perspective. Because then when you start researching words like Amazigians, when you start researching words like Amazigians, Peace, Noble Dantes. Peace, Noble Dantes. Hold on. Okay. Sorry about that, Noble Dante. That was my Empress. Yeah, I'm on YouTube too. Peace Tribe. Yeah, somebody was asking me, are all blacks Moors? Question. And what makes a black person a Moor? Peace, Noble. You know, but that's a yeah. You can come on YouTube as well. But that's a good question. I don't tell all black people that they're this. That's just like no disrespect to the brothers that call themselves Hebrew Israelites. But I say Hebrew is just an act. But I'm not going to argue with no one. I can say Israelites in the Bible because in the Bible it names a plethora of tribes, And then if you don't have the complete biblical, it's just hard when we start dealing with linguistics. So it's so much, but I'm not going to tell nobody what they are. When I say everyone have a right to know who they are, and no one can arbitrarily deny you your nationality and your right to change it. I'm not going to tell every black person you are more, but I use it like this. Khalid Muhammad was a Muslim. He said, I know I'm a Moor, got the sense enough to tell you I'm a Moor. In first century, they were Moors and Arab. When they say Moors was Arab, we can start going back to history. Arab is really, no disrespect, it was A-R-A-P, Arab. When you research Vladimir Dare's dictionary of what a true ancient Arab is. And then you can start getting another ancient writer named Bertram Thomas. He wrote a book called The Arab, and he'll tell you who the ancient Arab is. So when we start saying are all black Moors and this and that and the other, then it'll get tricky. I say we everything. Because then I can deal with the free Hebrews of Israel Hill. Then I can start dealing with the 5 free tribes. So it just depends. If people have an understanding that way, if they don't have an understanding, then my next thing would be we shouldn't be arguing saying we this and that. We should have an understanding that we're all these things. And language comes from, it's not a language, it's not a color. It can be papyri but when we use language and things, we have to start dealing with etymology, and we have to start dealing, because black was never used to describe ethnicity in first century. So it just depends on the person understanding, and if people are willing to have those conversations. That's where I rest with that. I had this conversation on Grand Canyon University campus. I got my dual, like I said, I got my dual master's degree from Grand Canyon University in first century history and religion and Christian history and science, because I wanted to study it. I was able to study in a doctoral library. I was able to study intensively. I'm part of the Philosophical Research Society, so I was able to study at, ancient libraries to where a lot of people didn't have the access or even, how can I say it, the connections to get the ancient books and to get the ancient dictionaries and then share them freely. But when I was getting my dual master's degree, it took me a year almost for me to gather and compile and turn a lot of books to PDFs that you will see on Amazon for thousands. Like I got books. It's a book called, what is it? Atlantis of Latter Days. It's an ancient Masonic book. No disrespect that the Europeans think heavy, but to me, it ain't nothing but snowman wisdom. It's just a level above freezing, and it cost stacks. It's probably unavailable on Amazon, but we took that and we made it out of PDF form, and we print and bind them like we do all my books. And as I do for college students, a lot of times when a lot of those books be eating up their financial aid, I print a lot of books for them, and I give them to them or charge for like $5 when I do lectures on campus, because they're students, and that's something that I always talked about. I always talked about how, to me, it's a hustle, but that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story, But to your answer, brother or sister, am I saying your name right? If I'm not, please don't charge me to saying your name wrong. Nasir, that's just my humble opinion on that. I would never tell nobody what they are, but I feel we can sit down and have discussion. I don't, just like a lot of people be saying anti-Semitic, this, that, and the other, or this anti-Semitic, which I did a lecture on campus and showed where that whole phrase came from and where it was made up. I even used a Jewish encyclopedia to show a lot of things. I don't come from biasness. you know. But for me, I'm not gonna. I choose to use different vernacular, you know, exactly for myself, you know. But I definitely not one of those people, you know. Can you explain what you believe their history is? Particularly, you said, particularly black. You say particularly black Americans. Can you explain what you believe their history is? I don't know what their history is, to be honest with you. You know. Okay, I ain't got too much time. I couldn't even tell you that, Nasir. I couldn't. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. And I don't know because I don't know what that is. I couldn't tell you. You know, I mean that'd be once again that'd be for panel. Just like when Ti and Mike and what's the Carnell West they got on, they had that little summit and they were saying, well, what should black people call themselves? Now I had most of my professors were Jews and they was 3 times chair, meaning they was a dean in in 3 different disciplines. And when we was having a oral discussion, it's like, okay, it's very simple. You just deal with the law. That's it. You just deal with what? The law. Because if we're so knowledgeable on what? Constitution with the 20, with all the 20 acts, if we understand that the Dred Scott law was never abolished, if we understand before Abraham Lincoln was a president, what did he do? He defended the Moore in court. That was the Spencer and Dungy case. Once we know all these things, like it'll take a whole college course for me to do this. But in academia, we talked about this, and I don't mind speaking about it over and over, but I have to reach back in history because it's not me. I tell a person to research the Spencer and Dungy case. The Dred Scott law was never abolished. Research the Wilmington white man's constitution. When I tell brothers, you not know 14th Amendment Negroes. I ask anybody, do they know the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment? If they don't understand manumissions, it's not. I'm not going to argue or have a discussion with that, but I don't know what Black Americans is, because black is a misnomer. Black is only old enough. That's like when misnomer black people talk, and I hope I'm not offending anyone, and I come from no disrespect at all. But when black people talk about reparations, black people will never get reparations. I don't care if you get what attorney you get. I don't care if you get Ben Crump. It's never going to happen. Never, never. No misnomer black person is going to get no reparations. Never. These is facts. So I don't know what black Americans, I don't know what their history is, to be honest. But even when I talk about Noble Drew Ali, and like I said, I like a lot of elders. Like I said, I even study Credo Matua. I even study Sheikh Bamboo Falls. I study a lot of shamans. I study the Orishas. I study the Santerias. Why? Because that's part of the culture that I've been introduced to. That's the culture I introduced to. But I'm a Moor. I got sense enough to tell you I'm a Moor. I got sense enough to tell you I'm a Moor. I can explain it to anyone. I'm not, and I wouldn't feel no way about how nobody else feel about it. But I feel the same way that someone say anti-Semitic. I feel the same way when you say Negro, Black, or African. I don't rock like that. I don't rock like that because I've told you who I am. I have a nationality. What's my nationality? Moorish American. What's my race? I choose Asiatic. And what's my status? Free white. That's that I can. It's white by law. If a person don't have an understanding on that aspect, and then I said that's the reason I say we have to study and come to the round table to have a clear understanding. Because a lot of times we just don't know, and a lot of times things weren't taught, and we can come from scholarship. But for myself, I give credit to know what Noble Drew Ali done on the right perspective. I deal with the wisdom of men. Peace, Empress, and dealing with it was like I said, it was a lot of great men. Like I can talk about, I know some people don't even like Dr. York, but Dr. York done a lot of things. Like even when they talk about what's the brother name that they say went crazy, Yahweh bin Yahweh. He was under the Nation of Islam. Those are houses that those brothers went through. Now, how high they got and maybe they power corrupt them, absolutely, so be it. But the wisdom and the manuscripts, when you cross reference it, like I'm able to do as an educator and a linguistic, you have to deal with the wisdom, because I always go with the language. And when the language and the archaeology don't match, then you can always stand strong and prove your point from scholarship, not from feelings. And that's all. But we put together some compilations about Noble Drew Ali, and it's a book called The Sacred Drift by Peter Lambert Wilson, which we have at the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. Like I said, for ebook, or we print it and bind it, where you can read about Noble Drew Ali. You can read about some things and get an idea, you know. Oh man, Noble, I want to read a little bit of this, man. I've been on my journey, Noble. It's been a long time, because just I've been through so many houses of wisdom and understanding. And I think, how can I say it? As you grow, as I went through academia, you know, it just, it's just hard to say, you know. But most of my brothers, most of my guys are Moors, you know, and we kick it like that. Like I love a lot of my Hebrew brothers, but from a historical aspect, as moving and the Moorish Science Temple, and then understanding history, it's all wrapped up in one. So I think it's a resurrection, you know, and I think we all on that resurrection movement, because I think we all should be able to have something which I call solidarity, that we can all unite and do things the right way. You know, that's just my humble opinion. But I've been on this journey, man. Shoot, I'm 40 right now. I'm 47. I've been on this journey over 20 years. Over 20 years. I've been through all type of ministry, academia. You know, I travel on my own to different prisons. You know, yep. Always ministered, you know, from the heart. Always mentored kids. But I think being the more is being in the community and being able to share your life, the history. I've done a lot of lectures in my adult life, and so I'm trying to make my way back around to, you know, our people, but which is all my people, to be honest. But you can find books, and it talks about our prophet, and it talks about him not being the only one in America, but being one, you know. And this is what Peter Lambert Wilson calls him, an American prophet. Calls Noble Drew Ali an American prophet on page 15 on The Sacred Drift. You can look it up if you want to, you know. That's why when, like I tell people, I say, hey man, a prophet is an angel, is a man and a woman clothed in the flesh. Everyone is made in the image of the Creator, you know. But when we have divine understanding that comes and lead the way and give an analogy and parable, I just have to speak on things that's a little bit more realistic to me. Because even the Bible says, how can you believe in a God you never seen, but hate your brother that you see every day, per se? See, I know that Noble Drew Ali, you know, within the flesh. I know Elijah Muhammad was in the flesh. And I don't have no problem with my Islam Muslims understanding that. I have a clear understanding that, because what brothers in the flesh that's really done a thing for our brothers to even compare them in that analogy of cleaning brothers up. Those things have been done. Those things have been done and still being done, you know? So I give credit to even Marcus Garvey, you know, even though a lot of, you know, people now, they just try to discredit, you know, people's bodies of work. You know, I just give credit to these men that was even willing to stand in front and even do that type of work. And for all those years of the work, for somebody just easy to, you know, make YouTube pages is kind of messed up, you know? You know? So that's where I'm at with it, man. But I just, like I said, Just one of the books we gathered compiled. We have another one, the Moorish American Light of Ali. Just some little books we compared and compiled for you can study and read. Oh, let me see. He said, "What's my opinion on the melanated man is God statement?" Oh, Nasir asked some good questions. Divine pattern of, hold on one second, Nasir. Divine pattern of the Mosaic tabernacle. I'm only going to show a couple, then I'll get right into it. I'll answer your question, Nasir, if I'm saying your name right. Esoteric science of the Moorish Fez. Gathered, compiled, and divinely prepared. Oh, that's good. It's good to ask questions, man. And that's one thing. And he's just been asking questions. It's nothing wrong with nobody asking questions. I got my tablet up. Some of my guys from GCU. He's being very honorable and respectable. That's honorable. And I always like to ask questions. And that's why I tell people when we honorable and we respect each other, that's what we're here to do, to learn. And it's all peace. That's why when I come on here, I tell people, ask me questions long as it's respectful. If any of my mufti was on here, they'll be like, when I have live classes, I'm like, any questions? That's fine. Sometimes when I have live lectures, though, a lot of times I ask, will people hold their questions for the end? But, sometimes we live and that's just how it goes. But we have our, I'll answer your question, Noble Nasir. We have our own web page. We have them as PDFs, like ebooks you can download on your tablet or your cell phone, or you can go to Office Max and Staple. They'll print them and bind them like this, or we can print them and bind them ourselves at our sister company. But you can get everything from mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z. And we have a plethora of books on that website. Not expensive, you know what I mean? When you go on Amazon and be like, wow, you might want them, you know what I mean? Some people don't like ebooks. That's fine. I know a plethora of people now that travel a lot like myself and others. They just travel with their tablet. They're not carrying a whole bunch of books. And some people like to buy books, but I say, hey, you buy a whole bunch of paper if you want. That's on you. But we also print and bind books at our sister company, bindedbooks.com. But it's mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z. But also, when we have live classes, Brother Nasir, if you subscribe to our Temple and School YouTube page on our Temple and School YouTube page at a Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School, when we have donations, when we have Saturday and Sunday school, I always ask people to hit us up, for I can give you, when I'm in my ministry, I give things for donations. I have companies, of course, but when I'm in the ministry, I want to give, which when I tell people connected with me, that's why I try to build my community. Because when I build a community, I give things away. If my mufti was on here, they'll tell you the value I give. If any of my mufti jump on YouTube, they'll tell you, they're like, man, their library is extensive, guaranteed. And we have book club. Oh, we got it. Oh, what time is it? We're getting ready to have book club in an hour. But all their libraries is very extensive. And so, yeah. So, what you said, what's my opinion on the melanated man is God statement? And see, I know about a lot of, like, man, see that, so you asked some good questions, man. And see, that's why I like these panels, because it just depends. It just depends, because it's a lot of truth and falsehood. Like, how can I say it and be, and all man is made in the image of God. You know what I mean? But you say the melanated man is God. Man is God. We're made in the image of the Creator. So understanding your God likeness, that essence, when you say melanated, what we have to, now, what are we talking about? Are we talking about melanin? Are we talking about the chemical essence of greatness? If that's what we're talking about, then I have to go even deeper with it, because that's just a statement. But if we're talking about a melanin, the chemical key to Black greatness from a scientific perspective, then we have to start digging. I have to start pulling out my documents. You see what I'm saying? So, I hear when brothers say that when they come from a religious perspective, but a lot of that stuff don't be truthful. Like the Supreme Lesson Book, from Fard Muhammad to the Lost Nation, that little red book. No disrespect to brothers, but a lot of that math ain't right. So, I mean, but from a scientific matter, I can speak on that. I can speak on that aspect. The chemical key to, when I say black greatness, I'm talking about melanin. I can speak on that part. But a religious aspect, I can't do it. Well, see, and then I've lectured that, man. Like I said, and one of these, not one of these days, maybe this week, I go back in my studies because I have it in my bag. I just don't want to jump off topics. And we have a whole discussion of Noble Nasir, and I come with some scholarly research. I come with a little Layla Africa, but I definitely come from the chemical key to black greatness. I'm trying to think of the doctor. I think I got the book in there. I know I do. Noble Dantes, what's the author of that book, man? And then you can look on Amazon. It's probably for like maybe four bands. It's only a couple hundred pages. Hold on, let me see. Hold on, I might have it. Hold on. Hey, Dad. Did I ever print that one before you? The melody, the chemical key to black greatness. I think you got that, don't you? All right, all right, all right, all right. So, actually, I had a couple of them here. So this is one out. You can look this up on Amazon. Tell me how much it costs. But we'll definitely have a conversation about this. Mm-hmm. This is by Carl Barnes, senior research chemist. The chemical key to black greatness. So this is a good, and like I said, it's not that long. It's only like 100 pages, but it's powerful. It's packed with wisdom and understanding. And you look on Amazon, you'll be like, man, why that book cost so much on Amazon? So you was asking me about history and things. This is another book that costs, it's a grip on Amazon. It's called Criminalizing a Race, by Free Blacks During Slavery, by Cherise C.L. McIntyre. I got a couple books by the doctor as well. I just and bring them all out. But they got this book on Amazon for a grip. For a grip. For a grip. And I lectured all this stuff, in university, and a lot of the college students, they buy them all. Remember I tell you all about Russian icons? This is by Vladimir Ivanov. I don't be here to argue with no one. When you talk about Saint Mark and all those Moors of the Tetrarchs, when you talk about the Russian icons, I hope light bulbs be going on, and when you see a lot of the plates and they be melanated and things, but whatever, I ain't into that. Or dark skin, whatever you want to call it, but even I got some other books when I show you who was in Russian and Europe, melanated, Swarty Pyatt. You ever heard that? Swarty Pyatt, Black Pete? The Forgotten Cause of the Civil War by Lawrence Artenzer. So a lot of these will put you in a perspective of some things, which we have dialogue on. So just those few books clear up a lot of questions that a lot of us may have, or a lot of students may have. But that's what we be here for, man, not to argue or debate with anyone. You know, I even got a book, 14 Famous Asiatic Scientists in History, where I talk about Benjamin Banneker, which some of may heard of Benjamin Banneker, but a lot of these I give to the kids. When I do lectures, I give these to the youth. You know, a lot of these great people in history, a lot of us may never heard of. Watch this. I don't know if anybody heard of Charles Drew. Watch this. Let me break a little bit down of history. We may have heard of Benjamin Banneker. What we got? Oh, we got 15 minutes. But they call him an African-American astronomer, mathematician, author, who constructed America's first functional clock. Benjamin Banneker was born a free man in Maryland on November 9, 1731. A landowning farmer of modest means, Banneker nevertheless lived a life of unusual achievement. You know, this, that, and the other. He completed construction of a working wooden clock in 1753. You know, he did a lot of stuff, but I don't want to stay too far in it because I need to proceed. Charles Drew, an American physician, surgeon, medical researcher, known as the inventor of the blood bank. Y'all ain't know that? Got him in there. Yeah. He done so much, man. Education, completed his bachelor's degree at Amherst in 1926. You know. Then he dreamed of attending medical school. He worked as a biology instructor and a coach for Morgan College, now Morgan State University in Baltimore for 2 years. 1928, he applied to medical school and enrolled at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. You know, okay. Some good people. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. I don't want to stay too far in it, but I just want to name a few. Emmett Chappell. Ernest Everett Just. I know we know who that is. Garrett Morgan. That's my guy. He did a lot of hair care products. Yeah, man. Yeah. George Washington Carver. You know what I'm saying? James West. So it's a plethora of, Mae Jemison. She was an American physician and NASA astronaut, known for being the first, they say, Black woman to travel into space. Here she go. There she go. Yeah. That's some good history. Here go Mary Menard Daly, woman to earn she was, they say, one of the first, to earn a PhD in chemistry. Best known for being the first, in chemistry in the United States, PhD. Was born on April 16, 1921 in Queens, New York. She was raised in education-oriented family, and Daly quickly received her BS and MS in chemistry at Queens College in New York, and New York University, after completing her PhD at Columbia and becoming the first African-American PhD, It's amazing, Hey, man, I can't tell people what they are, man. That ain't on me. When he asked me, are all Blacks African? I just want to see how you view these topics. Hey, are all Blacks African? I don't know. You got to ask all Blacks. You got to ask them. Just because a person's skin tone, I just explained it. Just because a person's skin tone is a color that I don't know if they African or what. They can be from Europe. They can be from Spain. So I stay out of those things. Professor Samuel Macy Jr. So, yep, it's a lot of brothers in history. But everybody has the right to choose how they want and move how they want to. That's just how I feel about all things. But I don't know what all Blacks are. What I couldn't tell all people, I couldn't. you know. But with that being said, man, I love y'all. Thanks for the questions, brother. It was a pleasure building with you. It was a pleasure talking to you. But like I say, man, everybody have a right of a nationality and the right to change it. And to claim a child replaces the birth certificate, you know? So I give y'all love, man. I give y'all peace. I'm out.